The end result is this thing you see here, the AppExpress summary screen. The AppExpress summary screen is just what it looks like. It will give you a nice at-a-glance view of each application. So each row is an app. It will show you the application name, the target QoE that you specified in the group config, and by far the most important column is this one, the user QoE column. If this has if this is colored like green or light green or yellow, that means there are active flows and there are users actually using that app right now. If there are no users using the app at that moment in time, it will say waiting for user traffic, which you'll see here. So this is this is not pings, right? The ping column is over here. So this ping column is showing you what is the ping QoE that we calculated, 100, 92, 99. And this is interesting, but the column that really matters is what are the users actually experiencing at any given point in time, and that's represented by the user QoE column. This page does not have a historical context. You can't say go back 3 hours or 4 hours. It's right now, and it updates continuously all the time. I think every 30 seconds, if I recall correctly. You won't normally need to hit pause. Just leave it auto refresh. It'll update, and it works quite well. It'll also show you the current transport path. So this is basically saying for Apple, we have the users are experiencing a QoE score of 100, which is excellent, and they are experiencing that across Axis 1 EdgeConnect SSE primary. In this release, you have one column. It'll say application performance trends here, or application performance charts. When you click this button, it will take you to the chart that we introduced in 9.3, which is the application performance trends view. This will give you a breakdown of user latency over time for that particular application. If you run your mouse across the chart, you will see that this area updates. So you can see what transport or what tunnel, whether it be local breakout or third party, was used at that time. So you can see here that my mouse is currently right here, and we can see that the transport path was passed through INET B best effort. So that's local breakout INET B. But then something happened. We move our mouse over slightly, and now we can see that the transport is East 2 AWS recreational. So it changed to backhaul. All right. One of the things I want to call out is that we've got the status column. This thing these are rather important, actually. In fact, it's the first thing I look at. So first, I'll look at the user QoE to just get an at a glance. Is it green or not? But if it's not green, or if there's some other thing going on, you can glance at the status column. This tells you quite a lot. This status is loaded, if you will, with meaning. There are these number of statuses. So initial means this is a state you'll see either when there's an error or when it's you very first hit save, and AppExpress hasn't had time to configure and get going yet. It'll sit in an initial state just for a couple of seconds. It'll then transition to learning. So you'll see learning as the status here. That means that it's pinging the paths. It's figuring out which path to start with, and during the time that it's in initial or learning, or if it's in fallback mode, during these transient states, it falls back on whatever policy it would have done if AppExpress didn't exist. So it's fail-safe in that way. AppExpress itself can't drop flows. It can't drop or do anything theoretically can't do anything that would impact the user's traffic. It only guides and suggests, it nudges flows to this path or that path, but it can't drop or prevent flows from occurring in the first place, and it falls back to the traditional behavior that the EdgeConnect's always had in failure states. So ping optimal means, if you see that, it means that there are no user flows, but we've pinged across some paths and we found a path that looks good. So we're ready to go. As soon as users show up, we'll be able to put them on what we think is the best path. Ping suboptimal means there are no user flows. We've pinged across every path, and we can't find a path that meets the target QoE you've specified. User optimal, like ping optimal, means we're seeing user flows and they're meeting the target QoE. User optimal is what you want to see. That's the preferred status that you'd always prefer to see. User suboptimal means we put users onto this path and they're not getting the QoE that we expected. That means that you only see user suboptimal for a second, because in the next minute or the next user QoE update interval, we're going to try a different path, which hopefully should transition from user suboptimal to user optimal. And then finally, there's a fallback state. This means something's wrong. We can't ping across any path. There are no user flows showing up for this app. And we've fallen back to typical or traditional EdgeConnect policy. And you'll see that if it says using default policy, that just means AppExpress is not doing anything. It's letting the BIOS and the typical normal prior to 9.4, what it would have done is what it's doing for any application you see that says using default policy. You'll usually see this when it's in learning. You might also see a condition where you have not available in the ping QoE column. This usually means there's something wrong with the host name that you configured in the ping. Like if you just type a invalid host name, misspell it or something, obviously we won't be able to resolve that host name because it doesn't exist, and you'll get a ping QoE not available. There are a couple of things that will reset the learning process. If you make any change at all to the application or to the application group, all of the apps will flip back into learning state. This doesn't impact the traffic or anything. It just means we're going to revert temporarily back to the default path selection that we do through BIOS or through whatever mechanism. So just be aware that when you make changes, it will reset you will see the AppExpress apps flip to learning once again.